kindred souls, your book lovers, who still read. আমাকে এখনো অনেকে জিজ্ঞেস করে very often যে এবং আমার যেহেতু I work with children, so very often they say this generation they don't read books, but it's not true. They do read books, maybe like with my son I've seen, he keeps telling me, I don't read books holding them in my hand. I read e-books. But the main point is reading. And that habit is something that will give you pleasure till the end of your life. আরেকটা জিনিস যেটা I have seen with, say I had my mother-in-law who would watch television, but every afternoon was book time. She would read books. That is a habit that she had, and she never complained that her children were not coming. In fact, she had a routine. I've seen that with my mother-in-law and my mother. They had a routine, and they were not successful women like Soma Bose. I'm talking about Soma and Chatterjee. And of course, you are there. They were both housewives, but they found books to be their friends till the last day of their lives. So books are something that will give you pleasure all through, and it's wonderful to meet Soma, the writer of this book, Frenny and other women you have met, which is true. When I read the book, I seem to think that I have met all these women. And it was wonderful, this book. I would like Soma to let me know what part of it is autobiographical and what part are experience.
Good evening, everyone. Really, really happy to be here with every one of you. It gives me a smile on my face when I see everyone smiling and looking at me. It's an experience which I don't know how to describe. It's my first book, and I'm celebrating with you all. I'm getting a wings to fly. I think this happiness is something said beyond.
I think we should clap on this. A first book, and to come and talk about it, it is, you have to get over your initial hesitation, one does, and to come and face people. Do you know all the people here? In fact, you don't know me, but you faced it so well.
Thank you.
Like a pro.
Thank you. I know my friends here for a long time who had been associated with me, Devashisa, Bodhi, Rita, my brother here, and Shormishta. Very year associated with us, but she has been a very good friend. And like we say that women can be good friends, and that is what Shormishta is for me. And Choititi is kind of more than a friend for me. And to start with the book, what Sudeshna said. So autobiography was the first story what I wrote, Frenny. So Frenny is a woman whom I met in Bombay. I went to meet Shyam Manigal sir for a project he was doing in Bangladesh, Bangladesh. And we met for a reason. I went to show my stories, and he offered me to be an interpreter for this movie, Bangladesh. And he said, can you stay in Bombay for a few months? And that was a time when my son was giving his 12th exam. And I said, without even hesitating, without even asking my family, I said to him, yes, sir, I can. I went back home so happy, telling this to my family that I will work for sir. And my father-in-law then, he said, you don't need to take a permission, it is Shyam Manigal. So you go ahead and work with him. And my journey started then. I started reading the book for what he was preparing, Gundu. I thoroughly researched the book and read it entirely. But things were different and happened different. It didn't happen for me for some reasons. But what happened was my friendship with Frenny, because Frenny was the secretary of Eminent. I remember a very funny incident. While I was in his room, and sir asked me, "Would you like to have a cup of tea?" I said, "Yes, why not?" And he called Freddy to his room and said, "Freddy, why don't you offer her a tea?" So Freddy very kind of said, "I asked for a tea, but she said no." I was like kind of, I was nervous because I was meeting Venegal sir. So I first said her no, and then I said yes. So she said, "Okay, I'm bringing you." And while our meeting ended and we went back, so for a month I waited for his call, and while I was waiting for his call, with Frenny my conversation started. And Frenny used to give me feedbacks, "Has sir called you?" I said no. "But why?" I said no. "Can you tell me why hasn't he called you?" So I, so he told me, she told me one day, "Let me talk to sir and let me get back to you." So she called up sir and said, "Why didn't you get back to Shoma? She's waiting for your call." "Oh, Frenny, I totally forgot. I'm not going to take her in my project. How can I say this to her?" But then Frenny said, "Sir, she's waiting for your call every day. Please speak to her and let her know that you're not taking her for some reasons." So Frenny gives me a call and says, "Next morning, 11:30, keep your phone on your side because sir is going to give me a call." I was very nervous. I didn't know yes or no what is going to happen. So 11:30, the phone rang and it was Shamanival sir, and he said, "Shoma, I'm so sorry. There are some reasons for which the thing is not happening, also which I can't disclose it here." But I totally understood what he said and it made sense what he said. I was into tears after putting down the phone because I wanted to work with him, really. Because that was his last movie and it's 86 years old. But after I kept down the phone while I was crying, Frenny called me up and she talked to me for about an hour. I suddenly forgot my pain and I was like into her pain what she shared with me her life journey. The conversation went 2 hours. It was all about her life. She's 70 years old and she's working still. And it was like a addiction for me talking to Freddie every day. We bonded about so many things. She started talking about my family, where's my son, what's my husband doing, what do I do, and moreover about her family, about herself. She's going through so many issues. So I started addressing her issues more, and I was happy more forgetting my pain, but getting into her life. And that's the journey of Frenny. And one day I decided, I talked to my editor and said, "I got this movie for my life." She said, "What is it about? Can you explain it?" And I explained, and she said, "Why don't you write it?" I said, "Do you think really it's going to, I should write it?" She said, "Yes, please write it down." And I started writing every chapter, one chapter each day. I used to talk to her, write it down, talk to her, and write it down. Until now, and when I said to her one day that, "Frenny, I've written a story on your name," and she says, "Tikra, how can you write on me? Are you sure you have written my name? What is going to sir say?" I said, "Don't worry. You are not a secretary to Shyam Manigal sir. You are someone else in my story. You belong to a stationery shop where you are working in the name of Frenny. But the Frenny in my heart remains the same." So that's Frenny for me. That's my real story.
Thank you for sharing it. This would have made a wonderful story in itself also. Though Frenny is very different, I can assure you, but I'm not going to disclose because I want you all to read it. And The other thing that is really nice about her stories is this sense of compassion, sense of understanding, bonding, and pain is there, but forgiveness is much greater virtue than, uh, you know, trying to inflict some kind of pain on the person who has given you pain. This kind of feeling you get. And I loved this story about the shawl, Amiral. And that's very different from the other four. Now, how did you think about that? What inspired you?
I think it's inspired by my grandmother. So when we were small and we were brought up in Nandad, my grandmother used to stitch kata for all of us. And today I understand the value of those kata uh, saris because then I was small and she had cataract and but she used to stitch like for every newborn, and this was all kept in a basket near the window ledge. And we were very close to her. Me and my brother, we were very close to Dadi. We used to call her Dadi. And we were very close with her. Like every day reading stories. And I used to see her stitching this every day. So when I started reading my story, as I said, I'm inspired by my grandmother. So she is every way in my life. So Amiran is also tribute to my grandmother because the shawl which she stitches and then it's passed to her granddaughter. How it is passed and how she yearns for that shawl. And I don't want to disclose it what the shawl's thing is. So I would like you all to read and understand, and then you would relate to it when I say it. So I don't want to let you the surprise get out.
Absolutely. I remember when I was a journalist and we were writing reviews for films, we were told by senior journalists who were good at writing reviews, like Shomadi is one of them, Shoma Chatterjee. There were others also. One of the things that they said is never disclose the story in the climax. But later on, I find that a lot of reviewers give you a whole the gist and then say this person was good, that person was good, this is good, that is good, and these are the people who were there. So similarly, when I'm talking about her stories, I don't want to disclose the end. Because then why would you go read it? Why would you go to see a film if I've given you the story in the review? So, therefore, it's very important that one doesn't disclose. And but I can tell you that the points that she has, this was something which was very, very important in all these stories. Is that you go through pain, but forgiveness, she has thought of it as a virtue, but not with a halo around your head. No. She has made it realistic, like real people. So, how did you come to that conclusion? What is it that life, it must be from life because there are times when you fight, and I've seen that happening early in life, people who have been instrumental in trying to pull me back. Later on, when I've gone through life and I have made a place for myself, those people have come ahead trying to be friends. I didn't ever turn them down and say, "Oh, you did this to me. You did, cut out that portion of my article, or you edited this portion away." So, no, I could learn how to forgive. So, how did you? And all her stories have that feeling about it. They're not all about forgiveness, but there is this strain of forgiveness and understanding and compassion.
Like when we were discussing, we were giving the interview, like Sudeshna said, that when you are 18, you are different. You are young and you are wanting to do so many things. You don't bother to care about anything. You are in 30s, you are again different. But when you are in 50s, you know what is life and what is life going to you. You don't want to hold back the grudges. You want to let it go. You want to forgive and you want to go ahead with your life. And that was my reason of writing this book also. Like, I didn't want to show any kind of negativity in the stories. Because I feel life is short and live with much happiness and joy and not grudging about what happened to you in the past. But look ahead with more happiness and more joy. I'm sure you're going to get it. Like when I started writing Ananya, it was 8 years back. Then I wrote something different. Then Ananya was not this. But when I started writing Ananya again, Ananya has like aged that this is me now. So I completely put myself in that place where I was writing. Can I do this thing? No, I can't. So what should I do? So that was Ananya kind of forgiving everything and coming back. So with ages and with the age you mature and you understand a lot of things by the experiences you get in your life. Life is different than when you were at 50 and in 60s. You start getting young and you start getting to know and you start getting the various experience of life you have experienced and you know life is beautiful.
Absolutely, I agree with you. And age is just a number, and the older you get, more experience you have. And the fact that you have white hair and can talk about it, it just shows that nature has given you time to talk about all the things that, and that is the positive part. Growing old is not about complaining. Old in years, I mean. The other thing that is positive about her stories is that she's taken stories of quote unquote ordinary people, but they are actually extraordinary. People who stay at home, people who put together families, look after them, yet they have time to do other things. There are lots of women at and because of them today, she and I are here. There are lots of women who had to give up their love for music, they have to give up their careers in music or dance or the performing arts or even working. But they have thought, they have brought up a new generation which thinks differently, and her stories have that. So, like she said, her grandmother was an inspiration, but what about your mother and mother in law?
Yes, I think
And father, because I'm not just talking about female bonding, men are also there. And I think it's times are changing. We were talking about it just a little while ago that at one point of time, men did not take much interest in what was happening at home. They didn't even know which class their children were in because that was something mothers looked after and they just asked. But things are changing very slowly, perhaps, but they are. So that is also there, that depiction of change.
for me, my father was really different. I would say of modern times. My father took interest in my studies and he knew what we were studying in school because he went to our parents teachers meeting and he would look after our studies every day coming from his work. And so was my mom. Ma was a homemaker, housewife. But still being a housewife, looking after her studies was equally a job. And every day after her work, she used to ask me, have you done your homework? Have you done your work? What your school has given, what your college was given. So she and my father both were equally into our studies and our reading. And later in my life, I got married. And today, when I was giving interview, I would say, like while I was writing this book, My mother-in-law used to say sometimes, "Why are you watching TV with me? Why don't you go and write?" And I was like, "Ma, I'm just going to finish one serial and go and write. Don't waste your time like this sitting with me. Why don't you go and finish? I'm really worried about your book. Are you going to finish on time?" That was my mother-in-law. And she's still, like today, she's been equally curious to know what's going on. And I know that once I go back home, my sister-in-law, my mother-in-law, all are waiting to know what's going to happen. So I've got a lot of phone calls once I reach home. And my men in my house, my husband, my son, they are more than a supporter. I think today what I am here doing something, this book, wouldn't have been possible without my family, without my family. I will repeatedly say it. It's because of family, my extended family, my parents, my brother, and my sister-in-law, another who is sitting here, my brother's wife, Kakuli. She's also a homemaker, but she's also doing so many things. She's working inside, outside, looking after my mother, her mother, but she's so talented. But you know what? We born the world like anything. A lot of people ask me, "You are so friendly with your," like my mother was saying today morning, "How can you talk to her for so long?" I said, "That is what, we have so much to talk, you don't know." So that is the reason my family is my strongest support. And there is my stories come from. It's come from this ordinary things which I do.
Uh, this reminds me of a story of Rabindranath, which was, I forget the exact name, it's part of Golpa Gucho, where the husband and wife, the husband was a novelist, and he used to read a lot of Walter Scott and Ivanhoe and things, and he wanted to write a novel like that and publish it. So the girl, his wife, said one day, "Why don't you write about us, about other women?" He said, "Who is interested in women and what your problems are? What horror you'll give and what body you will make, that's not part of a novel." So she just kept quiet. And I just want to give you this story to show that how important family is now. This lady wrote a book, wrote a novel about housewives and about her life, and she sent it to a publisher with the help of another friend, male friend. He was not her boyfriend, but somebody who helped her. So it was sent, and this gentleman, her husband, had also sent his novel, and he was waiting. Then one day, a letter came back to her, and a letter came to the husband. She was very excited. She opened the letter and she found that her story has been accepted. The story about ordinary women. And she ran to tell her husband that she found her husband in a foul mood. So she said, "What's wrong with you?" He said, "The problem is, I sent these publishers, have no sense. They have not accepted my novel, which is as good as Scott's novel. It's a modern day Ivanhoe that I have written." She just kept shut, and the last thing she did was she took her manuscript and burned it because she loved her husband so much. So things have changed a lot since those days. And it's stories like this which have changed the perception of people. And it's stories, if you read her stories, they are also perception changing. The usual perceptions have to change. Now I'll ask you, we've talked a lot about the book. What about, are you going to stop at this? Or are you thinking of your next book?
So yes, I've already started writing my next book, and the book is more intense, more mature. It's also about human man-woman relationship. I'm also going to strike a chord on mental health issues, which I was just talking to Sudeshna. which is on a large note in this country. So there will be again short stories because my idea of doing a short story is people love to read and finish it. They're on a holiday or somewhere, they take the book with them and they finish it. They don't think, oh, I have to read it again. So that's the reason I want to do a short story. But a title which I can say now is a very different title. It's called I Had Enough of You. So it can be a man, it can be a thing, it can be office, anything in your life. So I said, let it be, I had enough of you. So that's the title of my next book, which I'm started writing. And I would like to finish it soon, not linger it on. Because the thoughts are inside your mind and you want to write as soon as possible because otherwise it's going to run out from your mind and then you're going to keep on thinking what's there. So more it is soon, the more it's better.
Absolutely. You got into the mode, stay there. I have been asking her questions a lot. Is there anybody here who would like to ask us a question? Yes, because this is not a lecture session, this is an interactive session.
You have to be very philosophical one, which is the same that you always see the brighter side of life because it will be all my stories. It brings joy and happiness. But as in life is a mixture of pain and joy. So unless you feel pain in your life, you cannot enjoy your life. So certain kind of elements of pain is also required to understand the beauty of joy. You have to mention any story that pain is equally important, or even more important than the joy to understand the real life, essence of life.
Thank you both of them for this wonderful question. Yes, all my stories, all the books have gone through some kind of pain in some way. When you read it, you can understand. But what emerged was joy. So they experienced the pain in their life, but finally they came out with joy.
Is there even a single person who has not had pain in life? You can't enjoy them. If you have biryani every day, then biryani becomes dal bhat. Huh. So therefore, it's pain also and joy. It should alternate, but it doesn't happen in real life. Though. Is there anybody else? Yes.
There's something which you said, Sudeshna, about not just women, but also men that we talk of today, and being empathetic and being with us. Like, if we don't define it anymore as a feeling of pain as being only for a woman and things. So does any of the story have any so-called male character, which I mean feels that feels pain in that manner and like supportive? Is there any character like that in your stories?
Yes, it is. Shreyasi, there's a story called Shreyasi. When you read it, you understand that the pain had been there and he understood it. And same with Ananya. So Ananya is exactly what you said. So the man was like in pain, went through the pain equally with the woman because he was so much in love with this woman. He was with her for years and he experienced his pain himself with this woman. So when you read it, you understand exactly what you read, the story is that is all about.